Unlike any other, Mercy Ships, a floating hospital staffed by volunteers, heroes of mercy who donate their time to save lives.
Every human has the right to have a place at the table of the human race.
If you could just see the smiles that you get when lives have been changed, then it would make it all worth it.
To learn more about Heroes of Mercy, go to mercyships.org.
We have vital information we would like to share with you. The Department of Indian Work St. Paul partnered with the Minnesota Department of Health to open the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline. They provide information on testing sites, isolation space, vaccines, housing assistance, and food resources. If you or someone you know has questions about COVID-19 or has questions to determine if you should get tested, please call them at 651-304-9986. Again, the number is 651-304-9986. The Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline is open for calls Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Call the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline at 651-304-9986. That's 651-304-9986.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States, and 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected. Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf. Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy. As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired. Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
Hey Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in four directions. This is Robert Pilot of Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. I'm here to ask you for your support. Finding honest Native-centered news is not easy, but with your support, we're able to provide accurate information about Standing Rock, Line 3, treaty violations, and COVID-19 in our Native communities. Please visit Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon and donate if you can. That's Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon. Pinigigi, and thank you for your support.
Hey, Ogama, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Clear skies overnight with a low of 60, then hot sunshine Wednesday with a high of 90. Victor's 1959 Cafe on Grand Avenue in South Minneapolis is now open for patio dining. All of your Cuban favorites, such as the mango pancakes and sandwich cubano, are still available for takeout, with the dining room reopening soon. More at victors1959cafe.com.
Portions of Native Roots Radio may be pre-recorded.
It's a good day to be indigenous.
Get up, stand up.
They are going to become more brutal.
Cody Cup, hit me cut again.
Because all the hippies were trying to be Indians anyway.
They're going to become more repressive because it's a matter of dollars and their illusionary concepts of power.
Hey, Victor.
We must live in balance with the earth.
And also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee.
I am awake.
Hey everybody, this is Ogama Ganiwikwe. Looks like we can't hear Wendy. I hope you're able to hear me. I'm not pulling up Wendy on my end for audio, but welcome to Native Roots Radio. I hope you're all doing wonderful today. I can't remember which portion of the show this one is brought to you by, but I can pull it up for you here. Today we're supposed to have Wendy and Louis Eagle Thunder hosting with us, but it looks like we just happened to run into a little bit of a technical hiccup. I do want to let you know this portion of the show is brought to you by the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline. Their number is 651-304-9986, and they are open Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Again, that number is 651-304-9986. And while Wendy, I think, is working out her audio issues, I might just run straight into my news if that's okay.
That sounds
with
good.
you, Lewis.
That sounds
Actually,
great.
you know what? Why don't I introduce Lewis? I've got Lewis Eagle Thunder with me. You guys might know him as that Lakota guy from TikTok. Lewis, why don't you give him a quick update and some info here on how you came to join us on the show on Native Roots Radio?
Yeah, so I'm really excited to join the show here. Robert, Wendy, of course, you, Ogama, the means behind the scenes. But I want to thank everyone for joining us here. This type of Indigenous magazine style radio show is very unique, and I think that helps in us really gaining support with a lot of local and national activists that really want to get their message out there. I'm on TikTok at Lakota Guy, Ansign Lakota Guy, and I basically do history. I'm a history keeper on that site. I am a federally recognized tribal member with the Rosebud Sioux tribe in the Black Hills, and I was going to talk a little bit about that on my last segment in order to talk about kind of we're the third day before the 145th anniversary of the Battle of Little Bighorn. So we're going to talk a little bit about that later on. Deborah Haaland addressed the NCAI, the National Congress of American Indians, talking about boarding schools. Last Monday also was the Indigenous Peoples Day of Canada. And as we know, our First Nations brothers and sisters up there were having quite a hard time with all the recent news with Kamloops 215, as well as other atrocity of our relatives actually being found in these boarding schools. So I'm going to address a little bit about that later on, about how, boarding school has really was a systemic way of erasing us as Indigenous people, especially with our culture and spirituality. And not only, it's a cross-border issue, Canada and the United States, as well as, Mesoamerica, South America, all the Western Hemisphere Indigenous population has suffered through settler colonialism. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that and how, it's important to recognize that this was a systemic issue that we have, and to recognize the importance of us as an Indigenous people really reconnecting for that seventh generation, because as we always say, that seventh generation is what we're fighting for. We pray 7 generations ahead, and we pray for 7 generations before us to give us strength as well. I'm not too sure, Ogma, if the line has been cleared yet.
Yeah, I think Wendy's going to try to pop back in here. I don't know, Wendy, are you with us in audio?
Well, you know what? You guys are doing a great job. I don't really know if I need to be here, but that's okay. Welcome to Native Roots Radio. I'm Awake. We discuss national and Twin Cities American news and events, and you've already heard from Ogama and Lewis. I just wanted to bring up one thing, and then we'll get back to Ogama with the news, or maybe we'll do that second. But before we do that, I just want people to know that Ramsey County is holding a COVID-19 vaccine pop-up this Wednesday, which is tomorrow, June 23rd, from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. at the Alliance Field in St. Paul. They will be offering the Pfizer vaccine for ages 12 and up and the Johnson & Johnson vaccine for ages 18 and up, and there's no appointment needed. For more information, please visit ramseycounty.us/COVID vaccine. All right, Lewis, back to you. Why don't you finish up what you're doing? We have about 4 minutes left.
Yeah, sure. I don't know, Ogam, if you wanted to do news at that point, if that's enough, or I could go on. You let me know what works best for you.
I could pop in with just a little bit of important news that happened.
Yeah, let's do that.
On the Line 3 front. So today, the Indigenous Environmental Network put out a news release that one person was tackled and suffered injuries while being arrested for trespassing as Enbridge is continuing to drill for the Line 3 pipeline near Red Lake River without a tribal monitor. Enbridge is required to have a tribal monitor before they start drilling on the rivers, and they have not allowed the appointed tribal monitor, Sasha Bolio, who's a member of Red Lake Nation, to serve as the band's tribal cultural resource monitor. Things are continuing to escalate. The sheriff showed up with dogs at the site late last night. And the last time that this tactic was used was when water protectors were hurt at Standing Rock. So things are definitely getting heated on the Line 3 front. Enbridge is basically continuing to ignore the law and stop work orders that are happening. They've arrested people at the Red Lake Treaty Camp as well as the Welcome Water Protector Center in Palisade, where the DNR, or I'm sorry, not the DNR, the Minnesota, where the where there's a stop work order that was issued by the Army Corps of Engineers for cultural reasons. There's a lodge that Tanya Abed and Winona LeDuc have been holding space in the last couple of days, and there's been arrests made there as well. So those are some of the big things that are happening. Red Lake Treaty Camp is up in Pennington County, and the Welcome Water Protector Center is in Aiken County, Minnesota. And both are covered under the 1855 treaty, as well as the Red Lake Camp being covered under the Red Lake and Pembina bans through the Old Crossing Treaty of 1863. Enbridge has wrongfully assessed the amount of water withdrawal they were going to require for drilling under the rivers and waterways during the permit process that had been granted by the Minnesota DNR initially. So they have increased their water permit all the way up to 4.98 billion gallons in the state of Minnesota during what is a historically low water year in Minnesota. So if you're living in Minnesota and you love our lakes and waters, if 4.8 billion gallons doesn't scare you as an amount of water that's going to be removed from Minnesota's waterways, rivers, lakes, and streams, mostly in northern Minnesota, but also the Mississippi River. The other thing to consider is that once Enbridge pulls this water, there hasn't really been any reports or information that I've been able to locate personally about what is going to happen with this water, if it's contaminated, if it can be cleaned, where they're going to store it. Those kind of questions have really yet to have been answered by Enbridge on a public scale. So there's a lot of really huge concerns that are happening with this water draw that Enbridge has been suddenly granted. So if you're looking for a way to get involved to help stop Line 3, if you're looking for a place to donate, if you're looking to come up here, make sure you go to stopline3.org and find a way to get involved. This is really important. A very large portion of the world's fresh water is in the Minnesota watershed. So it's not just Minnesota that stands to be a problem right now. It's not just Minnesota that's going to have a problem with water. It could be potentially the entire country. So if you're not involved yet, make sure you go to stopline3.org to get involved.
And that water is actually more than Lake Mille Lacs that they've been granted, right? As far as the gallons. That's just crazy. You mentioned that yesterday.
Yeah, it's an atrocious amount of water considering, they're going up to 4.8 billion. It was in the millions of gallons that they had initially requested. And now all of a sudden they're being granted billions of gallons of water. All of a sudden, I can't imagine why that was approved so suddenly.
You've been listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. Next up, maybe more news with Ogama and Lewis Eagle Thunder. We'll be back after this short break. Stay with us. We have vital information we would like to share with you. The Department of Indian Works St. Paul partnered with the Minnesota Department of Health to open the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline. They provide information on testing sites, isolation space, vaccines, housing assistance, and food resources. If you or someone you know has questions about COVID-19 or has questions to determine if you should get tested, please call them at 651-304-9986. Again, the number is 651-304-9986. The Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline is open for calls Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Call the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline at 651-304-9986. That's 651-304-9986.
Unwanted sexting or photos, inappropriate jokes, even tickling or wrestling can feel like a violation. Catcalling, cornering, or groping, getting them drunk or high for sex, recording sexual acts without permission, Hurting someone because of their sexual orientation, raping a family member, a child, a date, a friend, a stranger. Purchasing a human being for sex. You make the choice every single time. Sexual violence is many things. Make a choice. Do not do it.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Over the past year and more, we've all missed out on a lot. Family time, graduations, weddings. And missing those events, we've missed out on even more. Friendships, connections, community, belonging. That's a long time to miss things this important. So don't miss on getting the COVID-19 vaccine. Vaccines are now available throughout Hennepin County to anyone over the age of 16. Just visit takecarehennepin.org and sign up to get yours. That's takecarehennepin.org.
Hi, I'm Jane Fonda, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host today, Wendy Pilot. Robert is off doing his legislative duties today, but he'll be back tomorrow. This portion of the show is brought to you by the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline. Call them at 651-304-9986. They're open Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. They are no longer open on Saturdays. And we'll go back to Ogama right now with the news. Ogama.
Hi, everybody. It's Ogama Ganuakwe again. I have just a little bit more news here, more national news. I do want to say, before I get any further, I see Rosetta's comment that the best part of their day is listening to Native Roots Radio. And I seen that comment. It put a huge smile on my face. Thank you for that, Rosetta Mgwich. I really appreciate it. So I do want to touch base a little bit on what Lewis said earlier. Secretary Deb Haaland is addressing the National Congress of American Indians for the first time since she's taken over as director or as the Department of the Interior. Her remarks are going to include a discussion about the Indian boarding school era. So this is going to be really exciting, and hopefully we can get a lot more done as far as, locating those children and, making reparations for what happened during the boarding school area. For our listeners in Wisconsin, in Milwaukee, the Gerald L. Ignis Indian Health Center at the 930 West Historic Mitchell Street is holding its third vaccination event today. The vaccination event is open to tribal members, descendants, and household members ages 12 and up. The executive director, Lyle Ignis, said that a lot of Native families are going to be traveling this summer and will want to return to powwows and other traditions that were, of course, put on hold for the last year due to COVID-19. Ignis told the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel that these aren't small crowds. There's several hundred people and in relatively close proximity. So getting back to our traditions requires us to get vaccinated. So I really want to put that out there to everybody. If you're going on the powwow trail this summer and you haven't gotten vaccinated, make sure you find some place in your area. A lot of tribes, a lot of tribal nations have ways for you to get vaccinated. I know that Dr. Anthony Stately is able to help with vaccinations for most Native people at the Native American Community Clinic in the Twin Cities area. And now we know that there's a center in Milwaukee and other places as well. And then in news of our Canadian relatives up north, the Canadian federal government announced this last Monday that Indigenous people can now apply to reclaim their traditional names on passports and other government IDs. The move is basically in a response for a call to action from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission back in 2015. And they're demanding that the governments allow survivors and their families to restore names changed by the residential school system. So in residential schools in Canada, children would come with an inherent name that they only knew themselves by, and they were given an English name. So now all of those individuals who are members of First Nations in Canada, Inuit, and Métis background can apply to reclaim their identity on official documents. All fees will be waived for the name changing process, and that's going to apply to passports, citizenship certificates, and permanent resident cards. So that is a really big deal happening in Canada. It's going to potentially affect hundreds of thousands of people who can change their name back to their traditional name. So that's going to be really exciting, and I'm really happy for our relatives in Canada there. Lewis, did you want to touch base a little bit more on what you were going to talk about today?
Yeah, sure. I don't know how much time I have here, but I was just going to go on a little bit of it because Monday was Indigenous Peoples Day in Canada. And as you spoke about so eloquently, Ogma, we're talking about, reclamation of their identities, with this name. And I think that's really important when we think about boarding schools as a national issue. And a Truth and Reconciliation Commission, I believe, really needs to take place in the United States when we consider the amount of boarding schools that we have, and that we've lived through together. It's absolutely necessary to think about what Deborah Haaland and how remarkable of her to come to the National Congress of American Indians and talk about this, because it's something that needs to be talked about. In Minnesota alone, we had 16 boarding schools that drew students from all out of the states. The earliest one was White Earth in 1871. Our friends in Wisconsin, Lac du Flambeau, was one of the first schools there, 1895 to 1932. And a lot of this was an erasure of names, erasure of, an identity. And a lot of this had to do with acts in Congress. And this was a intentional act. And I want to make that as clear as we can for our audience, that when we talk about residential boarding schools and Native erasure, especially generational trauma that we suffer with, this was an intentional act. From the one of the first ones was the Civilization Fund Act, passed in 1819. The act encouraged activities of benevolent societies in providing education for Native Americans and authorized an annuity to basically assimilate the civilization process for American Indian children. The Civilization Fund led to the formation of numerous Native American boarding schools towards the end of the 19th century. The benevolent societies were a combination of Christian missionaries and U.S. federal funds that were allocated to schools designated to educate Native Americans in ways that the white man wanted them to behave. The goal was to civilize Native Americans by getting rid of their traditions, customs, and teachings, reading and writing in the missionary schools to replace, for my culture, the Lakota Iyapi was replaced by what we call Wechicha, and Christian practices. The Bureau of Indian Affairs was created in 1824 by the federal government and replaced and basically placed it into the Department of War. It was created in this order to administer the annuity funds given to the school. So basically what that means is that the funds from the federal government were given to these schools in order for them to, quote unquote, civilize our children. And this happened across, the nation. The United States happened up in Canada, as we're seeing with our First Nations brothers and sisters up there. According to the Indian Commissioner, Luke Leah, it was indispensably necessary that they place this position where they can be controlled and finally compelled by stern necessity in such a time for general improvement and good conduct may supersede the necessity of such restrictions. So when we think about that, kill the Indian, save the man type of policy, especially with Carlisle, we have a duty as Indigenous people in 2021 to recognize these atrocities, to push for a Truth and Reconciliation Commission in the United States, like they had in Canada in 2016, like they had in South Africa, like they had in Central America, because until we recognize and come to the truth of the genocide of our children in these United States, we can truly never come to reconciliation as a country and begin that healing process that we need. Ogama.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just in awe at how well spoken that exactly is. This was incredibly intentional, and a lot of the things that are still happening, there's people that will tell you, the boarding school era never ended. It just changed to the foster care and the child protective services system. There's a lot of these things that are still very much so affecting Native people today. And most people that are at best 2 generations removed from a residential school relative, a grandparent, a great grandparent at best. Personally, my grandmother was raised in a mission school in Red Lake Nation, and she was raised there because her mother had been murdered. So I don't know that she would have been forced to go there, but she did go there. And my understanding was she spoke fluent Ojibwe when she entered the school at about age of 8. And when she returned, she never spoke Ojibwe again. And even into her later years, if she were to talk about something cultural or something, related to her first language, she'd look over her shoulder before she said anything. And until you start to learn about these things as an Indigenous person or as a non-Indigenous ally, I don't think it really sets in how recent these things really were for us as a people and how much there can actually be done now to make reparations for this and to start the healing process for the entire nation, Native people, non-Native people alike. Because truly, we cannot move forward from this history until we acknowledge it and we start to do something. You know, what's that saying? The only real apology is changed behavior. And we need to get to that point, I think, in this country. Right, Louis?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's kind of funny. Us as Indigenous people have to treat the United States government with kid gloves when it comes to this type of issue, but that's exactly what it is. I mean, you know, the real question we have is, why does the NCAI have to talk about the atrocities committed against Indigenous people when the United States government in itself has billions and billions of dollars that it has to talk about a truth and reconciliation, when in fact today we noticed that they gave billions and billions of dollars away to the airline industry, especially down there in Texas, and those people are laying people off and kept the money for profit. So, you know, this mismanagement of funds we have on a national level, and it basically not prioritizing the healing and the necessary position we as Indigenous people need in telling the history of the United States, because truly you cannot teach American history without Indigenous American history. Those are one and the same. And until we start thinking about that and deconstruct that on a national level, we can't really teach our kids from K through 12 all the way up the importance of things like the residential boarding school and Native erasure.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's so much to think about, and there's so much that has yet to be done. And, you know, the slowness of this process, I think, is something that we all have to kind of take back for a minute and, you know, remember to be, I don't know, patient and tolerant with, but at the same time, you know, keep that fire in our hearts that this needs to keep going and we need to keep talking about this. I think Callie just posted here, Winnie Wichoni, sorry, you know, water is life, and we need to make sure to keep talking about these things every single day. Everybody, hang in there.
Absolutely.
Been listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host today, Wendy Pilot. Up next, I think we might have Robert here on Facebook. Well, we'll see what we have when we come back. Stay with us.
Hey, Wendy, what are we doing for dinner after the show?
How about we go to J. Selby's on 169 Victoria Street in St. Paul? They have a delicious plant-based menu that's compassionate and environmentally sustainable.
I'm getting their spot-on vegan Big Mac, the dirty secret.
You can pick up and they deliver within a 5-mile radius, or you can call them at 651-222-3263 or visit jselbys.com.
Well, you sold me, Wen. Let's go order at J. Selby's tonight.
I'm hungry.
Life is a journey, and the Doherty Family College will help you get where you want to go. Located downtown Minneapolis, this affordable 2-year college provides free textbooks, a laptop, meals, career coaches, one-on-one mentorship, and a Metro Transit pass, making DFC the perfect pathway to a bachelor's degree. Turn your dreams into reality. Connect with a counselor today at dfc.stthomas.edu.
If you're hurting in your relationship or have been affected by sexual violence, you're not alone. Strong Hearts Native Helpline can help you through these difficult and uncertain times. Strong Hearts Helpline is a free 24/7 confidential domestic dating and sexual violence helpline for Native Americans. Help is available by calling 1-844-762-8483 or by clicking on the Chat Now icon on strongheartshelpline.org. This message is sponsored by the National Indigenous Women's Resource Center.
COVID-19 vaccines are safe, effective, free, and approved for everyone over the age of 12. Getting vaccinated is the most powerful tool to keep ourselves and loved ones healthy and to end this pandemic. Get your vaccine and get back to what matters most to you. To learn more about scheduling a free appointment, visit ramseycounty.us/COVID vaccine. Again, that website to schedule your free COVID-19 vaccine is ramseycounty.us/COVID vaccine.
Hey, Olgama, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
Hi, this is Desi Doyen of the Green News Report and the Bradcast. You're listening to AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
We have vital information we would like to share with you. The Department of Indian Work St. Paul partnered with the Minnesota Department of Health to open the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline. They provide information on testing sites, isolation space, vaccines, housing assistance, and food resources. If you or someone you know has questions about COVID-19 or has questions to determine if you should get tested, please call them at 651-304-9986. Again, the number is 651-304-9986. The Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline is open for calls Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Call the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline at 651-304-9986. That's 651-304-9986.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Clear skies overnight with a low of 60, then hot sunshine Wednesday with a high of 90. Victor's 1959 Cafe on Grand Avenue in South Minneapolis is now open for patio dining. All of your Cuban favorites, such as the mango pancakes and sandwich cubano, are still available for takeout, with the dining room reopening soon. More at victors1959cafe.com.
Hi, this is Representative Sharice Davids from Kansas. I'm Ho Chunk, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
We are the Elusive Nation.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host today, Wendy Pilot. Robert is off legislating, but I think we might have him. This portion of the show is brought to you by MN350, a grassroots organization fighting for climate justice. We were supposed to be talking to Nancy Bolio from Bemidji 350 and Rise Coalition, but she is up in the deep north without a signal. So maybe we can just talk to Robert here for a while. I see that he is on his phone. Robert, are you available to talk with us for a little bit? Nope, we can't hear Robert.
Robert, you're on mute.
Robert is on mute, but he doesn't know that.
I'm not sure he knows that. He must have limited signal where he's at
Yeah,
too.
he might. I will text
frozen.
him. How about Emma and Lewis? You could go ahead and take over. It looks like they are trying to get Nancy on the phone. So why don't you guys go ahead with some information while we figure this out?
Sure, absolutely. I always give a little updates on what's happening, with things to do for Stop Line 3 items. So I didn't cover too many of those today, so let's run through a couple of those right quick. Thursday, June 24th, there is a Protect Water, Protect Wild Rice run and walk for the water at the Big Bear Landing. The general information number you can call to participate or donate is 218-261-2160, and the name is Mary that you're going to want to reach out to. Again, that number is 218-261-2160, and that is for the Protect Water, Protect Minuman Thursday, June 24th run and walk at Big Bear Landing in northern Minnesota. And as well as this coming Friday, there is a Dance the Line Away event from 4 to 6 p.m. at 406 Main Avenue in Fargo, North Dakota. They're going to be downtown at the Wells Fargo Bank branch asking for them to divest from fossil fuel projects like Line 3. And coming up next Monday in the Twin Cities, MN350 has organized MMIR Mondays at the Governor's Mansion, where they are going to be outside of 1006 Summit Avenue, St. Paul. and talking about and gathering in solidarity with our missing and murdered Indigenous relatives and calling on the governor and legislature to establish a state MMIR office. We do have a task force, but there is really no office at this time for the task force to operate out of. And we do know as Native people that projects like Line 3 tend to cause an influx in missing and murdered Indigenous relatives, sex trafficking, assaults, violence, and all of those other things. As we know from today with the Red Lake Treaty Camp having a violent arrest where somebody was tackled and arrested. And that's just police brutality. That doesn't even count, what happens with these thousands of out-of-state workers that come in. So we definitely want to raise up that event as well. And then coming up in early July, July 2nd through 5th is going to be the Shell River Paddle. You can go to stopline3.org/events for the Shell City Paddle. They're going to be doing a river paddle with multiple launches each day. It's about a 2 to 3 hour trip. I believe the water, since water levels are so low, the water should be pretty still. I don't expect very many rapids on that trip. And it is at a public park, so just make sure that when you come up to be self-sufficient and to remember to be respectful of those places.
That's awesome. Ogama, we have Robert on the line here. Maybe we could hear what's going on here. So, Robert, how are you?
Hey, I'm just about to pull out a peanut butter and jelly sandwich here in Wisconsin.
That sounds good. Awesome. I made you 2 sandwiches. You must have ate the other one earlier today.
Yes. Peony Gigi
Awesome.
for that. You're,
Awesome.
you're my best wife so far. How's the show going?
Well, it would have been better if you were here. I was muted in the beginning, but Ogama took over and she just did a fabulous job. So now I'm back.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. Yeah, I saw that. I was able to watch you a little bit because, like on Facebook, it has the words coming up. So that was cool. So yeah, great job, you guys. I'm here in Wisconsin heading back on 94, and it's a beautiful day to be Indigenous and Native American. A lot of good things happening all over Turtle Island here, and it's great to have you and Ogama and now Lewis on the team. I just can't be more grateful because there's so much work to be done, and you with your sacred animal section, I know so many people email us and talk about how important your section is, and Ogama with the news where we don't hear that anywhere else. It's just a blessing to have these people with us, Wendy.
Thank you very much, Robert. I really appreciate it. And Robert's driving back from Black River Falls. He had some legislative duties today, but he'll be back in the studio here in our home studio tomorrow.
Yes.
You have anything else, Robert? You have anything else for us, Robert?
No, I just want to give you guys a big shout out because you're doing important work, and I feel blessed that you guys can step in at any time and take this while I'm when I'm doing my other work for Indian country here.
Mm-hmm. It's our pleasure. We just love doing it.
And I can't wait to listen to your sacred animals section. It's been with us since day one, and it's so important because as Native Americans, these are our relatives, and I can't say that enough. These are our relatives that are under attack, just like us as Native Americans. It's the colonized way is not the way to go, and we really need to support all beings on Turtle Island.
That's right. I appreciate that so much, Robert. Thank you so much.
All right.
Okay,
Love you. I'll see you in a couple hours.
Sounds good. All right. Ogama, did you want to finish up? We have about 5 minutes left.
Sure. I'm just reading through this article. This was posted by The Guardian. And what's happening right now, and I'm really excited for this, and, with all the talk we do about sacred animals and the environment and stopping Line 3, this article really excites me because it looks like legal experts all over the world are drawing up a definition of ecocide. And what the intention is that this would be adopted by the International Criminal Court to prosecute offenses against the environment. So the draft law was just unveiled on Tuesday, and it defines ecocide as unlawful or wanton acts committed with knowledge that there is a substantial likelihood of severe and widespread or long-term damage to the environment being caused by those acts. The Stop Ecocide Foundation initiative is working on this, and it's coming because there's certainly a lot of concern right now that there's not enough being done worldwide to tackle the climate crisis. There's really not. So this is something that could, if it's adopted by the international organization, it would be the fifth offense the court prosecutes, which would come alongside war crimes, crimes against humanity, genocide, and crime of aggression. So it would be the first new international crime since the 1940s, when Nazi leaders were persecuted at the Nuremberg trials. So this could be a really, really big deal when it comes to Native people and non-Native people everywhere, fighting to save the environment where they're at. I mean, based under that definition, unlawful or wanton acts committed with knowledge that there's a substantial likelihood of severe long-term damage to the environment. I feel like line 3 falls into all of those categories. Enbridge has been, working and doing things unlawfully and continuing to buy off the police system up here in the northern part of Minnesota to get their project through, to make their money without any regard with what's going to happen to the environment up here. And as they continue with this construction and to use the police forces against water protectors here, is simply trying to, act within their rights within the treaty territory. It certainly feels at that same level of crimes against humanity, and it really is an extension of genocide. So I'm really, really hopeful that this ecocide definition can come forward and can make some changes in the world. How about you, Wendy?
Oh, absolutely. And of course I care about people, absolutely. But again, caring about the environment, we're caring about the animals, the wildlife. We're all connected. I think Winona LaDuke was talking about the clams, because of the drought, and the clams have to kind of climb up this 10 feet bank to get over the other side to get into the river, and a lot of them are going to die. But a lot of the wildlife, they depend on these clams and these animals in the water to feed them, and it's really very important that we take care of the environment, and because we're all connected. So yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. And I think that is something really important to remember too. In Lakota, I think it's Mitakuye-Oyasin. We are all related.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Is that right, Lewis?
Mitakuye-Oyasin. Yeah. Good spot on.
I'm glad I'm Ojibwe, so my Lakota's a little rough sometimes.
Oh, my Ojibwe sounds like Klingon, believe me. So we're both in the same aspect, just different.
I only know about 5 words in Ho-Chunk, so
I probably know 5 words in Ho-Chunk too from you and Robert, Wendy. But it's really important to keep that perspective. I think that's probably one of my favorite phrases to, kind of center myself when the world seems a little bit crazy, or when I feel, all that anger come up, to remember we are all related. And those that are fighting for the environment, those that are fighting for clean water and for a just transition, are not just fighting for themselves. They're fighting for everybody. And it takes a lot of faith and a lot of courage to go and to look at the people that would want to continue to just make money and do wrong against you, and realize that what you're doing is benefiting them just as well as it's benefiting everybody else.
I just wanted to add, Ogma, real quick. We saw this with the Dakota Access Pipeline, and the same thing with Line 3. And if if you're the type of person, I'm speaking to our allies out there that don't really care about environment, you believe, whatever, the earth is 2,000 years old or whatever. One thing to consider is this: who is paying for law enforcement that these Enbridge and other corporations are using against people protecting your water? That's you. You, the taxpayer, is paying for these law enforcement agencies. You, as a taxpayer, is paying for these agencies that are literally intimidating and harassing people that are protecting your children's water. So keep that in mind.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that, Lewis. You've been listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. I'm your host today, Wendy Pilot. And up next is a sacred animal segment. I'm going to be talking about large birds that are dropping from the sky from the heat. Stay with us. Hey, Ogama, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States, and 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected. Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf. Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy. As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired. Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
Hey Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in four directions. This is Robert Pilot of Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. I'm here to ask you for your support. Finding honest Native-centered news is not easy, but with your support, we're able to provide accurate information about Standing Rock, Line 3, treaty violations, and COVID-19 in our Native communities. Please visit Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon and donate if you can. That's Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon. Pinigigi, and thank you for your support.
Over the past year and more, we've all missed out on a lot. Family time, graduations, weddings. And missing those events, we've missed out on even more. Friendships, connections, community, belonging. That's a long time to miss things this important. So don't miss on getting the COVID-19 vaccine. Vaccines are now available throughout Hennepin County to anyone over the age of 16. Just visit takecarehennepin.org and sign up to get yours. That's takecarehennepin.org.
Annie, and I'm Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan, and you are listening to Native Roots Radio.
We are Alusa Nation.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host today, Wendy Pilot. I just want everyone to know that Ramsey County is holding a COVID-19 pop-up clinic this Wednesday, which is tomorrow, June 23rd, from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. at Alliance Field. That's a soccer field off of 94 in St. Paul. They will be offering the Pfizer vaccine for ages 12 and up and the Johnson & Johnson vaccine for ages 18 and up. There's no appointment necessary. For more information, visit ramseycounty.us/COVID vaccine. And this portion of the show is brought to you by Howling for Wolves, protecting wolves for future generations.
Woo!
That's awesome. You know, we laugh every day about that howling. And thank you for joining in on that, Lewis. That was a really very authentic wolf howl, if I must say so myself. My name is Hanaji Hihani, and that means cares for them. I was given that name by my Dega Curtis, whose Native American name is Mashke Hanajinga, which means walks on white clouds. And I'm glad that I remember that because I kind of forgot that. And somebody did mention that I should be saying his native name. So Curtis, if I'm saying it wrong, just please text me and let me know. So I'm going to be talking about this article that I have here, and it's from the Olympian.com. Large birds are dropping from heat stroke in Arizona as temperatures near 120 degrees. And this is an article written by Mark Price, and it was dated June 18th, 2021. And I just wanted everybody to know that just earlier today, before we came on the air, about 5:30, Arizona temperature was 108. It cooled down to 102. They're down to 102. Wednesday is going to be 100 degrees. Thursday, 102 degrees. Friday, 106 degrees. Saturday, 109 degrees, and Sunday, 111 degrees. And in some parts, it will reach 120 degrees in parched Arizona, and the heat is causing the state's large raptors to drop from heat stroke. As many as 20 birds a day are being treated this week by Arizona raptor rescue agencies, including large birds found sitting in traffic. The Arizona Department of Public Safety reported Thursday a state trooper stopped to investigate a pile of debris on Interstate 17 near Camp Verde and discovered it was a delirious golden eagle. The bird was about the size of a beagle and was unable to fly. It turns out this blazing heat was to blame, Arizona Game and Fish officials posted on Facebook. The National Weather Service declared an excessive heat warning for southern Arizona this week due to dangerous hot conditions in the afternoons. Temperatures have topped 100 degrees many days this month and are predicted to rise as high as 118 degrees in the coming days, NWS forecasters say. Arizona's based raptor rescue Wild at Heart says the golden eagle rescued off of Interstate 17 is one of a growing number of heat-stressed birds it is treating. The eagle was overheated rather than injured and recovered after receiving IV fluids, a meal, officials said. With 20 raptors intakes a day, the WAH has its busiest day of 2021 so far, as this heat wave is really taking a toll on the young birds, the agency reported on Thursday. Please put out water for our young birds that can't fly yet to water, and all the birds and wildlife that need shade and water to survive this summer. Extreme heat in Arizona has also been known to cause some species of hawks to leave the nest too early, leaving them stuck on the ground and unable to fly, according to Tuscan Audubon Society. The agency says concerned people should avoid picking up the falling hawks unless they are in imminent danger from a predator. Their parents are nearby and taking care of them. So this is another, we're in the middle of climate change here. We're seeing it as we speak. We're getting these hot temperatures. The last 2 days here in the Twin Cities area has been fantastic. Yesterday, I don't think it was in the early, low 70s, and today it went up to like 75 or 77, but it feels really, really good. But Wednesday and Thursday, we're going to be back up into the 90s, and it's really going to be hot. And I do always leave pans of water out for the animals. Some are low to the ground, so the little animals can get some water. And, the other couple of weeks ago, I was telling Robert a story that this thing was unbelievable to me that happened, that I picked up a small green caterpillar. It was about an inch long, and it was laying on the sidewalk, and I thought it was dead, but I kind of touched it and it moved. So I picked it up, and it was a really, really hot day, and I had the caterpillar on my finger, and I put a drop of water right by its face, and I can't believe it, but I saw the caterpillar drinking the water from this drop of water that I put down. And I put him in I set him down after he was finished drinking. I knew, he stopped and he kind of moved his head around, and I just couldn't believe it. It was just something I've never experienced before. And then I set him down under the tree and some leaves, so it was cooler there. But all our animals, our insects also need water. So put some rocks in your, bird bath. If you have a bird bath, fill it up. Put some rocks so that the flies and the butterflies and the hummingbirds and everything else that are around can have some water. It's really important. But hopefully, I think Arizona is doing a really good job, and taking care of these birds, these raptors that are falling from the sky and that are dehydrated. They're giving them food, they're giving them IV fluids, and then sending them back out. But I know a lot of people from Arizona listen to the show, so if you can put some pans of water out, and if you know people, let them also know that they could also help the wildlife, not only the raptors and the birds, but all kinds of wildlife to do that. And again, I didn't introduce myself. I am a humane policy volunteer leader for the Humane Society of the United States, and I work on animal issues at the local and state level. And it's really one of my passions of mine to work on policies, to change, to make transformational changes for animals. Rescuing animals is so important, and we absolutely need to continue doing that. But working on the back end, getting transformational changes made that will help animals is really one of my passions. So I'm really happy to do that. And I think we have about a minute left from the show, and I'm going to turn up some music, and I'm going to do my thing here. I would like to end with these thoughts. If you've been listening to this show, you are the resistance. We need to resist, divest, join a group, and run for office. You've been listening to Native Roots Radio. I'm Awake, and I've been your host today, Wendy Pilot. Robert Pilot will be back tomorrow, which I'm very happy for. I would like to thank Ogama, Lewis, and Nancy. I'm sorry we missed you today. Robert, thanks so much for calling in and giving us a good pep talk. Free Leonard Peltier. Stop line 3. Please get vaccinated. We'll be back tomorrow.
With Moni Kulu Chama Away in my best, they